The thought, of course, that a visit from his youngest son to, of course, His Majesty the King, King Charles, over here in London, might have been something of a welcome respite, given all the bad news that sadly His Majesty has received over the last few days. But according to a very well-placed source, apparently His Majesty the King did not want Prince Harry to return. As ever, let me explain. Morning, how are you? Nice to see you today, as ever. Thank you so much for joining me on a milder day today. But let me tell you, I know you love to know these things. Apparently we're going to be getting snow. I know I've mentioned this before, but it must be right, because the weather girl on one of those channels that she flies halfway around the world while telling you not to do climate change, you know the ones I mean, yeah. Well, apparently we're going to be having snow, so we've got to be prepared. I'm prepared. Are you? Yes. I mean, you kind of, every time there's always a dramatic, isn't there? We could, we may storm this. Have you noticed? It's a bit like the storm literally brewing over in the British monarchy right now. As you can imagine, very testing times and more serious note for His Majesty the King. And as I've said before, everybody on this channel will wish him the best, because, nobody likes to be ill. It doesn't matter who you are, what you are, the money you have, whatever. Illness just strikes at anybody. It's, unrelented, isn't it? Nobody truly knows what's coming next. God bless us all is what I say. But the bottom line is, as we saw recently in that very brief visit from the former royal known as the Duke of Sussex, Prince Harry, to visit his father, literally in central London, it didn't go exactly to plan. You see, according to a very well-placed source, Harry, I believe, felt that he was going to be sort of trumpets, open arms, fanfare, a little bit like that Stephen Colbert thing, that he mocked the British monarchy. Suddenly, I'm back, here to save the day, everything will be all right. Let's not forget, he publicly said virtually that, having met Her Majesty the Queen for a brief nanosecond out at Windsor Castle, popped up with Hodder somewhere on NBC and basically said, I'm checking to see everybody's right and the right people around her. They were very sceptical, as one can imagine, in the side palace walls about Harry's return. But according to that very well-placed source, His Majesty the King, while very moved by this very dramatic gesture of thousands of miles to come over here to visit him to see how he was in person, it wasn't exactly necessary or indeed welcome. And the reason behind this is not being heartless, kind or uncruel. Obviously we know His Majesty the King has very much a leaning open door to his, some might say, very misguided youngest son. But the bigger reason was this, that His Majesty the King, alongside Queen Camilla, did not want to alarm people about how seriousness, the severity of this potential diagnosis is. And you can understand that, It was very much downplayed with His Majesty appearing at church last Sunday alongside Queen Camilla, waving to the crowds. He's projected a very positive image, and rightly so. This is a man who's only 9 months in to his reign. Now, Harry quickly switching gear, jumping on a plane in the dramatics of I must come and see you, but couldn't really be bothered to come and spend time with him at his, of course, Platinum Jubilee or indeed his coronation, reeks of something else. Obviously, William staying away noted this and made sure that he was very much out of the picture. So what do we learn about the meeting? Well, what we can tell you so far is this. Apparently, pictures were bestowed. Oh, yes, absolutely. Drawings, cranes from, of course, the young children, Archie and Lilibeth, wishing the King all the very best in getting well soon. That must be like receiving a card from a total stranger. You get the picture. And apparently snaps were shown on a phone of the children and how they're progressing. And with that, quite frankly, quite a brief chat, and then the King had to depart, as he likes to keep to a schedule, to the Norfolk retreat, his private home in Sandringham, where currently he's residing. There are no plans at the time of recording of this for Harry to meet up with His Majesty the King again. Strange world, yeah? Neil Sean in the very heart of London.